Both of those cause a lot of inflammation in the body, and inflammation in the body is essentially the main cause of pretty much every disease and illness out there. And so it's recommended. Yo, what's going on, guys? Today on the Elevate Your Life podcast, my name is Seth Hood. We got Joe.ignace here, Zane Gallagher, and this is our first ever podcast. So we're going to be starting off by talking about a lot of fad diets, controversial topics. We wanted to bring you guys something juicy today. And also just about our individual stories and kind of how Elevate Wellness got started. So you guys want to say what up?
What up?
Yo.
In case you guys are listening on audio, there's three of us here. But yeah, so just a little bit of a background to my story is I've been lifting for over 14 years now. Going into my freshman year of high school, I was literally under 100 pounds. I think I was like 94, 96 pounds. And I was introduced to the weight room my freshman year of high school. And that's when it all changed for me, right? Like that's whenever I developed a lot of confidence. And I eventually got a scholarship to wrestle in college, competed in my first physique competition last year. Super blessed to say that I won the overall at my competition. So I won 5 classes. And I learned a ton of things along the way. And I've just always been super passionate about helping others. And this is something that I've worked really hard at and kind of comes natural to me. So that's kind of what got me here today. And Joe and Zane are going to tell a little bit about their stories now too.
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. Is where I live right now. I went to, I started lifting when I was 14 as well for soccer. That was my main sport. So we always did, for speed and agility, stuff like that. And when I came to college, I was 135 pounds, 5'10" and a half or something like that, 3/4 if you push it. And anyway, I started getting to the gym. I met a friend named Nick, and he was just this ripped guy. He was 18 years old and probably 185, 5'9". He's just ripped guy. I started going to gym with him and started learning how to do it. And after my freshman year, gained about 20, 30 pounds and ended up, ending college like 165 or so, pretty fit for my size. That built a ton of confidence for me. It was a lot of fun and I enjoyed just competing. And there were times I did the gym, like squats the wrong way and even almost like, ruptured discs and things like that. So I like being a part of Elevate, trying to help people, reach their goals without getting injured, stuff, things like that. So it's all about really helping people build confidence, and reach their goals and stuff like that. So, much more of the athletic, builds and stuff like that's what I've always gone for.
Cool. What's up, homies? I'm Zane, and I'm calling all the way from Nebraska, go Midwest. And I got introduced to the gym when I was a freshman in high school, and I have a very similar story to Seth. I was just a little guy, sat bench every single year in football, and that just did not feel good. I also wrestled just like Seth too. And then by the end of my high school career, I was double the size that I came into high school. And I finally started, and man, that just felt so relieving. And then after that, I knew that I wanted to have that same transformation help people with that same transformation going forward and make that basically my full-time gig eventually. And so I actually coached myself to win my first physique competition. So I was like, if I'm going to do this for other people, then I'm going to do it for myself first. And so I was able to do that. And now I'm competing for the second time here this upcoming February in Phoenix, Arizona. So that'll be a lot bigger stage. And I'm excited to push it. And I just love helping myself and helping other people break belief barriers for their own goals.
Cool. And also, by the way, if you guys see me like turning around and doing something over here, I just started doing the van life like on and off like 6 or 7 months ago. And so I'm currently recording this from the camper van, which is awesome. And so, yeah.
Elevate Wellness, get a van.
I love traveling. So it's like, why not? I have a lot of friends who do it. And so how Elevate came about, right? We all did the same internship over our last previous summers, and it's a sales internship. And so we all met each other doing this. We've learned a ton of skills from that. And we kind of just wanted to transition what we learned there into essentially being able to help people with their physical fitness. Because I really do believe that if you focus on your your mentality and your fitness, then every other area of your life improves. So getting into it now, some of the topics that we will be talking about, right, is essentially just, right, that was a little bit of the story of our upbringing. And then there's tons of misinformation out there within the fitness industry. I think this is one of the biggest industries that there is misinformation in, right? From Fad Diets to these influencer type, what do you call it? Influencer type, like exercises that you see people doing and promoting, to different types of foods, to different just random fitness ideas. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. There's tons of this misinformation out there. So we just want to cut through the noise for you guys, make it super simple. So we have a couple different topics we want to talk about today. And yeah, we're just going to free flow with this. So the first one is the topic of fat being bad, right? So in the 70s and 80s, it was essentially promoted to the United States that fat is bad. And that's whenever this low fat, super high carb diet essentially began. So what do you guys think about that?
But Seth, doesn't fat make you fat?
Doesn't fat make you fat?
It's like eating cholesterol causes high cholesterol. That's true, right?
Yeah. So I can get into it going off that, Zane. I was actually helping some friends when I was in California, which is where I'm from. Just last week, I went grocery shopping with them. And my friend Delaney, she keeps mentioning about like fat equals fat, right? Like the type of food fat you eat equals like body fat, which is not the same. So another word for, they should have came up with a different names for them because they're not the same thing, right? So the fat on your body is what's called adipose tissue, right? And there's white adipose tissue and there's brown adipose tissue. And we can go very in depth on that. Oh, shoot.
Oh, no.
You'll just get toasty.
Yeah, it's getting hot, so I get some airflow now. But yeah, there's 3 essential macronutrients for the human body, which is carbs, proteins, and fats. So I know, Zane, you know a lot about like the benefits of proper amount of fat. So
yeah, so fat, I will say that, I mean, having like a ton of fat in your diet, it's more calorically dense than any other macronutrient, right? Because it's 9 calories per gram as opposed to 4 calories per gram for carbs and protein. So if you're eating like 100 grams of fat in a day, 150 grams of fat in a day, I mean, there is a lot of fat in the stuff that we eat every day, right? Like the typical American diet, like cheese and red meat, those have a ton of fat in them, right? Milk has a ton of fat in it. So we're obviously talking about moderation with fats, but not completely cutting them out, because what fats do in your body is they're actually essential for your hormones. So there's a thing where people get super, super deep into their competition prep. And when they cut their fats down, they lose their sex drive. They have like mood swings, right? They just get super, super tired. Their energy levels plummet. And that obviously is just because they're in like 4% body fat, 1, but also for 2, they have really, really low fat consumption, because protein and carbs are both like praised in like the bodybuilding community, but we literally don't have testosterone or, human growth hormone without consuming fat. So that's literally the macronutrient that allows us to have hormones. So it's actually super, super beneficial. And that's why people get a lot of adverse effects in their competition prep when they cut them under like 40 grams. So we never tell our clients to go below that. Even like Evan, we just coached him for his first physique competition, and I never had him below like 45 grams of fat because I didn't want him to go through that, right? He just wouldn't feel very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the real one that you want to stay away from is saturated fat, or at least limiting that. Your polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats are really, really good for you. So, those are in peanuts and cashews and different stuff like that are really healthy fats, and just sort of the saturated fats from like milk, trying to avoid that or limit that as much as you can.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's like 2 and 2, right? Saturated and trans fats, avoid as much as possible. Poly and monounsaturated fats, get as much as possible. And right. And the best sources that I know of to get these, like Joe said, like all your different kinds of nuts, your fatty fish, right? I love salmon, and that has some good fats, omega-3s, right? Avocado is incredible. Those are probably the best sources of fat that I like to get.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And
I was gonna say too. So there's two types of unsaturated fat, right? There's omega-3 unsaturated fatty acids and omega-6 unsaturated fatty acids. And our the typical American diet is really, really high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are actually pro-inflammatory. Okay. But omega-3 fatty acids are basically the precursors to all of the anti-inflammatory functions in our body. So we typically have a lot of omega-6 fatty acids in our diet, but omega-3 fatty acids is what's very high in fish, right? And then even like olive oil, right? Any sort of nuts, like you were talking about a little bit, Seth, like those are very, very good for you in that regard too.
mm-hmm. So I've heard different things about this because overall, that's what I've heard. But I've also heard that you need to have, is it like any omega-6s or is it a certain, like over a certain amount of omega-6s? Because that is, I'm still not sure about that part.
Yeah, I get you. So like most of the time, I mean, there are different types of, like omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, et cetera. Like there's EPA and DHA and all of these, and that would honestly be a lot of complexity to talk about this podcast. But in general, I think that if people focus on getting a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, and I mean, omega-6 fatty acids are very good for you too, but typically in eating the diets that we already do, we already get quite a bit of those. But omega-3 fatty acids, very, very good for you, anti-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think we should talk about sugar, because that's the real issue, and excess calories is what actually turns into fat on your body, Seth.
Yeah. And before we go over to sugar, since we're still on the topic of fat, right? Okay, so probably the two biggest harms, from what I heard, like I listen to podcasts all the freaking time. I've been listening to this guy, Dr. Mark Hyman, recently. He is a functional medicine doctor, and he goes super in depth. So you guys should listen to him if you haven't yet. But the two most harmful things are probably bad fats and sugar, right? Because both of those cause a lot of inflammation in the body, and inflammation in the body is essentially the main cause of pretty much every disease and illness out there. And so it's recommended to, and obviously you're going to have natural sugars from things like your fructose, right? From all your fruit, like bananas have quite a bit of fructose. But what's more to focus on is limiting your added sugar. So it's recommended to have under 30 grams of added sugar per day. And obviously with added sugar, the less, the better, right? Because what happens when you have those or bad fats is it just causes a lot of inflammation in the body. It restricts your blood flow. And I mean, you can go so in depth on every different part of your body, how it's affected by that.
Right. So there's in your average pop that has high fructose corn syrup in like a 12-ounce can of Mountain Dew or something, you'll have about like 40 grams of sugar. And everybody expects that. Nobody thinks that pop is good for you. But the thing that blew my mind the other day is I just started tracking my macros again because I'm going to compete here in 7.5 months. So it's just necessary that I know what's going into my body at all times. And I was putting freaking jelly on my toast, and I got some natural jelly, it's like made with real fruit. And I put this jelly on, and then I typed it in, and it was like my MyFitnessPal popped up, and it said your sugar goal is to stay under, whatever, 100 grams or whatever for the day. And that's including sugars that are from fruit. And I put 6 tablespoons of jelly on both of on like 3 on one piece of toast, 3 on the other.
Wow, that's insane.
3 on one,
that's
3 on the other. I like my jelly, baby. That stuff tastes good.
He's palming it.
Previously, I went through a lot of jelly, but what I realized then I looked, and I flip over to the back, 10 grams of added sugar per tablespoon. That was 60 grams of sugar in just my freaking jelly on my toast. And who's going to look at the natural container of jelly and be like, oh, wow, I shouldn't eat this, you know? That literally has more added sugar than a freaking Mountain Dew. I would have been better off drinking a Mountain Dew.
Wow. That's crazy.
Insane. Yeah, so
I just want to watch you like put 6 tablespoons
that
of
amount.
jelly
Like, what does that even look
on
like
toast? Like, I don't even it's like thicker than the bread. Yeah.
The tablespoon is like this size, right? Like, it's not very big. So 6 tablespoons on one, divided between
trying to defend it.
Toast.
Yeah, I know.
Just 3 tablespoons on each piece of toast. That's not bad, you'd think, but it is bad.
And
so what I realized is, 1, no more of that jelly. But for 2, I need to start using less jelly.
Yeah. And you mentioned about like the nutrition label too. That's so honestly, probably the 2 biggest things I look at, right? It depends on how in depth you want to get with this, because you can go so deep with nutrition. But if you're the typical person, right, and you're just trying to eat healthier and you want to start looking at the nutrition label, the 2 biggest things I look for, right, is how much added sugar there is and how much protein there is. Because most people consume way too much added sugar and most people consume way too little protein, right? And so, and what's crazy is higher protein foods are, they have a higher thermogenic effect, which means they actually help you burn more, right? They help you burn more calories because protein is harder for your body to like it takes more for your body to process protein than the other macros.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I look for is if it's from one individual thing, I'm always looking for under 10 grams of added sugar. But honestly, that's like the max, right? For me, if I can get under 5 grams of added sugar, I'm going to do it. Anything to get under that 30 grams of added sugar per day. And then for me, it's protein is next, right? Where I'm always looking to get 10 or more grams of protein from like any meal I eat. Because if not, then like it's just going to be very tough to hit my daily goal. And for me, we'll come back to the misinformation, but very easy way to figure out your protein goal is to essentially take your goal body weight, right? Let's say my goal body weight is to be 165 pounds. Multiply 165 times anywhere between about 0.8 and 1.2. Usually the less active you are, the lighter you are, you're going to be closer to multiplying that goal body weight times 0.8. If you're like exercising very, very intensely almost every single day, maybe you're an athlete, right? Like maybe you're a little bit bigger dude, then you're going to be closer to that like 1 to 1.2 mark. So super easy way to calculate that.
Especially and it's like dependent on your goals too, because that's honestly the perfect range, because for somebody that's going to compete in a physique competition or something, like somebody that really, really wants to maintain as much muscle as possible, because when you're in a caloric deficit, you want your protein to be really high for the reason that those metabolic processes, like gluconeogenesis, that literally takes amino acids and that converts it to glucose, right, which eats at your muscle. So if you can get as much protein as possible throughout your diet in a sense like that, where you're getting pretty low in body fat, super beneficial. But I mean, for the average person, like 0.8 to 1 is like really, really, really solid goal, like you were talking about, Seth. It just depends on your goals sometimes too.
You guys want to hear about the clay diet? You guys ever heard about the clay diet?
No, I haven't.
The clay diet. No.
Yeah, let me read this to you. We'll get you guys' reaction to this. This is from the Fresh and Lean, some little blog I looked up the other day at looking up some crazy fad diets, because I've heard of a bunch like the cabbage diets and paleo and all that stuff. We should chat about those. But the clay diet. Okay, so here's their little thing on freshlean.com. So want to lose weight but have trouble curbing those hunger pangs? Then put some dirt in your water. Problem solved. So basically, this diet was this idea that you put this thing called bentonite clay into your water. It's an absorbent volcanic ash, and says it will remove toxins and heavy metals from your body. This is a real thing. I'm not kidding. People did this. So some people probably still do this. The clay swells up to 12 times its size after you've swallowed it in your stomach, so it makes you less hungry. And it gets slow moving waste out of your gut, boosting your metabolism. So some stars like Shailene Woodley and Zoe Kravitz, always butchered that, Kravitz, oh boy, that's awful, have done it. And you can find clay pills on the market too. Main selling point is weight loss. Want to lose 10 pounds in 12 days? Sign me up, right? And there's stuff that, let's get your reaction and I'll give you some more of the hard facts.
I mean,
but...
eating a bag of sand would for sure make you less hungry, I feel like. Just start eating out of the sandbox.
Yeah, so this is a very common like fitness health industry thing. Like, oh, here's this magic pill to cut out all of the, the hard work, the discipline, the lifestyle choices, right? Because a lot, it's crazy. Right? So those are pills though. You can go buy those pills, at stores, at Walmart, I think.
With the volcanic ash in it.
With volcanic ash, right? Which probably, is just something from somewhere thrown in a pill capsule that is unharmful by the FDA, right?
From their backyard. That's
and
pretty good business.
Just got some pig manure.
And then it's the health industry, right? They'll get all these people to like try them. They probably don't, but then they just put all this marketing into it to make it sound cool, right? And then a bunch of people will do it. And this is what it ended up doing with people. So there's a doctor, gastroenterologist at University College Hospital in London. The clay acts as a resin and binds everything, both good and bad, making it harder for the body to digest vital nutrients such as iron and calcium. So actually eating the clay makes you more prone to, bone decay and can make you anemic and stuff like that.
That shouldn't even take a rocket scientist or a doctor to tell you that eating dirt is bad for you, right?
Yeah.
You would think.
And there's so much misinformation out there. How do you guys how do you guys suggest for the average Joe to sift through and figure out what's true?
I was about to say the same thing.
Treat me like the average Joe. That's what I'll be.
So what I always keep in mind is there's always going to be principles of fitness and nutrition, right? After that, I think that's the biggest thing. There's principles of fitness and nutrition. The second big pillar is everyone does have their own individual microbiome, right? So like something that works for one person may not work for the other, but that's secondary to these principles, right? And what I think of when it comes to the principles of fitness and nutrition, it's down to how many calories you're eating per day, your macros and micros, right? Because it's not only about how much you're eating. I think it's largely about what you're eating. Yeah, because just because two foods have the same amount of calories does not make it equal, right? Because your body reacts, your hormones are influenced differently depending on what it is, right? Can of Coke versus handful of almonds may have the same amount of calories, very different.
Or something like whey versus pea protein. Like I had pea protein and I wanted to absolutely die. Literally my whole, I had the worst heartburn of my life for 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah. My body does not like pea protein. It's whey. I'm a whey guy. So my body can do whey. It doesn't like soy. It doesn't like pea protein at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey. And then other principles is just your activity level, right? Keeping your activity level high. Because like you said, Joe, everyone wants this instant pill. But it's if you're always looking for this instant pill, you're always going to be restarting. You're not going to do these things that sustain over time. Maybe you'll get a lot of results quickly, but whenever you go back, right? So let's say, for example, this, I recently heard about this snake diet. It's called a snake diet. And 2 days ago, I heard about it. I was in Vegas on my connecting flight. My buddy picked me up, Paul Stevens, and he was telling me about the snake diet, and I looked it up, and it's called a dry fast. And this dude dry fasted for 7 days, which means no food, no liquids. And the first thing that came to my mind is this dude is going to get someone killed, literally.
Yeah.
What he promotes, he's like, hey, I promote 3 days. I wanted to do it for 7 days just to make sure his 3 days was okay. But what happens, right? It's sure, maybe you'll probably lose weight, obviously, right? You're just not eating calories. You're going to lose weight. But what happens is your body goes, all right, this is getting me to the next fad, right? Or the next training style an eating style that I see so many people do that it just makes me want to pull my hair out, which is people who, for an extended amount of time, increase their cardio and decrease their calories. And you see this especially with women, right? They will be on 1,300 calories for freaking 6 months, and they'll be doing 30 minutes to an hour plus of cardio every single day. And it's essentially your body is either a fat burning machine or it's a fat storing machine, right? And you just got to essentially think that whenever 10,000 years ago, when humans were trying to adapt because we're adaptation machines, we didn't know the next time we were going to get food. So our body adapted and it held more fat. It was a fat storing machine. And whenever people are doing tons of cardio and eating hardly any calories, they're putting their body into a fat storing mode, right? When you're doing these principles that we're talking about, lifting weights, you're eating the right amount of calories, you're focusing on your macros, your micros, you're keeping your activity level up, right? You can do these small little actions and habits that turn your body into a fat burning machine.
Absolutely. Like imagine this is for the average Joe, here. Imagine that the atomic bomb's going to drop and you got 2 weeks, you go and store everything from the store, right? You go get bread and all this stuff and you try not to waste anything. That's what your body does when you don't eat enough, right? Your body just starts to hold everything in and panics. I mean, I think actually if you go long enough, your brain sort of it's harder to learn. Your brain can shrink a little bit. I mean, there's so many negative effects of not eating enough food. And by the way, if you are a lady who's gone 6 months on 1,300 calories and you are running an hour a day and working out like twice a day, like bless you. That's just
go eat a cheeseburger, man.
The mental toughness to do that. I just want to say, it's just like, I couldn't do it. Like, that's so hard. It's like, if I miss a meal, I'm like crying, I'm like, I need my food, and I just want to say that you probably look great and there's nothing to worry about. And actually your body just needs some more food. And then if you do these, what they call refeed days, where you eat a lot, once or twice a week, then your body will go back to normal and you can lose the weight you're trying to lose, which I think's, super important. So anyway, just a little bit of encouragement there to not give up. And just sometimes it's work smarter, not harder. You don't want to bash your head against the wall to break through the wall. Just pick up a pickaxe.
Right. What's crazy is we had one of our clients that I was personally coaching for the past few months. We had her on 1,800 calories and she was losing weight. And we had her doing refeed days and she was just like, oh man, I'm eating so much all the time. As soon as we dropped down her calories to 1,400, she started gaining weight. And isn't that crazy? So she started eating 400 less calories every single day. And her body's metabolism was resisting her so heavily for decreasing her calories that she actually started gaining weight. Her body was like, her metabolism switched to like what Seth was talking about, that fat storing mode. We went right back up to 1,800 calories and she started losing weight again. So that does not always mean just because you eat less calories, just because you do more cardio, that does not always mean that you're going to lose weight. Because, and I always tell this story when I'm explaining this, like every single person knows a person that's overweight that runs all the time, claims that they run all the time, and they eat 3 salads every single day. And they're wondering, just like it's just like running into a brick wall. Like, why can I not lose weight? Why can I not lose weight? Seriously, eat a cheeseburger and you will lose weight. Like, that's funny, right? But it's actually true. Eat some more calories, and you've got to take this little period of time where you do eat more calories for a while. You get your body back into that, your metabolism boosted back up, so your body doesn't think that you're starving itself. It's starving itself, and then you can dip down your calories a little bit. But that's why the system of refeed days strategic is so helpful, and that's why sometimes having a coach is so helpful, because we walk people through this. When you plateau, refeed day, and then dip your calories back down, and people always lose an extra like 1 pound right after we do that.
Absolutely. A coach is so important. I mean, there's just so much so much just nonsense out there. It's so confusing. I mean, I remember back in soccer, I was playing for my club team or whatever. And they brought in a licensed nutritionist, and he was teaching us about different workouts for athletes, right? For example, and he was talking about if you really want to like build some more muscle, what you need to stop doing is like long distance and start doing sprints. HIIT workouts, things that are
Mhm.
high intensity interval training, because it increases your growth hormone, your human growth hormone, and testosterone. And those are your muscle building hormones. And sometimes building muscle, losing weight, stuff like that has a lot more to do with your hormones than actually sometimes your effort or even what you're eating. So you just got to make sure those things are balanced. So we're kind of running out of time. So let's finish off with one more fad diet. And then just maybe, if it's cool with you guys, just like a little bit of understanding, very simple metric to kind of figure out if something's a fad or if it's sustainable. So the last one, this is one of the most popular diets, I think, that has stayed popular for a really long time. And I bet you Zane and Seth can kind of guess this, and maybe you can, and maybe you're doing this right now. Stop it.
Keto?
It's not, keto, the paleo ketogenic diet. So just to explain what that is, and then we'll get some reactions from the guys here, but ketogenesis. So it's just basically this idea that you cut out carbs forever. So it's the exact opposite of what happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's this idea that if I eat lots of protein and fat, then I can get my body to go into this ketogenic state where it uses extra calories to turn fat into energy. And because I don't have carbs, then I can't gain, weight because there's no carbs or sugar. Zane, Seth, what are your reactions to that? Why is that wrong? And
that sounds so nice, just eating like only fat, and then your body will be a fat burning machine.
Okay, so
keto was originally made for epileptic children. Then now you can go ahead, Seth.
Actually, going right off that. So I will say, from all the people I've listened to, there are benefits of the keto diet, but I think it's what it's originally supposed to be designed for was short periods of time, or maybe not a keto diet, but a lower carb diet, right? At certain periods of time for certain individuals, a very short keto diet or a lower carb diet does have benefits, right? I'll start off by saying that. But I think people have taken it to an extreme, just like we tend to do with everything, right? And so, just like we were saying earlier, one of the principles of nutrition is your macronutrients, right? Macronutrient literally means nutrients that your body uses in large quantities. There's 3 of them: carbs, proteins, and fats, right? And so I think, so here's why it's a fad diet, because it helps people get very quick results. Most of the time they're getting these quick results is as they're taking out their carbs, they're literally just eating less calories. So obviously they're going to lose weight very quickly because they're just eating way less calories. But what happens is a lot of times whenever people reintroduce carbs into their diet, immediately they jump back up in weight because now they're reintroducing all those calories again. And Zane talks a lot about this thing called the keto flu. I don't know too much about that, but I do know a lot of people regain a lot of weight, sometimes even plus some, when they reintroduce carbs.
Yeah, I had a buddy who tried this, and then Zane, want to hear your thoughts. Zane's the nutritionist guru of the group. But my buddy did this. He lost like 20, 25 pounds. He's eating cheeseburgers. He's eating steaks. He's like, dude, I love what I eat. And he was getting full very quickly, because protein and fat, they fill you up. And then after a long period of time, he decides to start switching, going back to normal, and he gained like 30 pounds, It was really, really frustrating for him and his wife. So, go ahead, Zane.
My definition of a fad diet would be anything that asks you, or anything that in the parameters for that asks you to cut something out.
True, like an entire food group. Yep.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Because it is the best diet, and Seth says this all the time, the best diet is the one that's sustainable for you. And cutting out carbs forever is not really sustainable for anybody, unless you have to. For some, like one of our clients has multiple sclerosis. And so for him, he's trying out the keto diet because it has anti-inflammatory properties. And a lot of people with central nervous system disorders, they will try the keto diet, and sometimes it does have benefits for them. So I will start off by saying that. But it takes time for your body to go into ketogenesis. right? And we learn a lot in our nutrition classes about like the fasting versus starvation periods. And it takes your body about 72 hours to completely switch over to like burning fat. And so that process doesn't feel good. But what feels even worse is when you're coming off of ketosis and you reintroduce carbs. So if your body's been under ketosis for so long and then you reintroduce carbs, then your body, because your body likes to break down carbs. It's your body's primary source of energy. So when you stop, when you start consuming carbs again, your body instantly switches to, oh, finally I have carbs. This is my preferred source of energy. So that's what it's going to switch over to using first for its energy. And so then it's just like if you cut out lactose, or if you cut out milk, any sort of lactose, milk, cheese, whatever. When you reintroduce that, it makes a lot of people like sick, have gut aches, that kind of stuff, because their body gets used to some sort of thing. So people actually get pretty sick and they just have like low energy levels, and it has a lot of symptoms that come along with the keto flu. But that's basically what it is when you reintroduce carbs and your body switches its metabolic processes from ketosis back into glycolysis when it's breaking down carbs to uptake glucose. And so for that, it's like, yeah, you could do keto for 3 months. You could lose some weight, but just like Joe was talking about with his friend, when you reintroduce that, you're going to feel like crap, one, and then you might gain all that weight back that you lost. So,
yeah, fad diets are like this: feel crappy now, feel crappy later. Those are crap. Those are fad diets. You want to avoid those as much as possible. So, we really encourage you guys to just do it. You want to do it the old fashioned hard way. Just it shouldn't be that hard. It's a discipline thing. Some of it's a self-control thing. Some of us, some of us just don't need to go to fast food. If you just decide, you know what, the rule is, I make my own food at home, that person's probably going to lose the weight that they want to lose. That small change of just knowing what's actually in the food that you're making. Or, some people just need to not drink soda. Some people need to take out these small things. And if you, if all you got out of this was like cut out sugars in your life and eat like fish, and that's all you remembered, that would be a huge step probably in the right direction for you, the average Joe out there, But yeah, don't listen to these fad diets. Don't listen to this crap. They never talk about fiber. They never talk about, go into the science of it. It's always like, this made me feel good, and then I lost this. Waha. It's never science backed, or anything like that. That's also a key thing. It's doctor or science backed. So, and that's
need to correct myself real quick before I get roasted. Keto flu happens when you start the keto diet. So you'll feel really, really bad for like 2 to 7 days after you stop eating carbs, basically. So it's like the process of going into ketosis. That's hard on your body.
Yeah. So we are running about out of time here. We got like 6 minutes left. So maybe just do some closing comments here. Wrap it up.
Essentially the two things I was going to say, I was going to close out here. I guess, do you guys have something to talk about? Because I can close this out.
I'm good.
Cool. So the one thing is, we're talking about a lot about principles of nutrition and fitness. So what I do is I follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time, right, most meals I try to get carbs, proteins, fats, and vegetables. Using the 80-20 rule off of that, 80% of the time I try to get those macros from quality sources, right? And we'll go into a deep dive on this on another episode of like all these quality sources for each of those. But 80% of the time I get them from quality sources. The other 20% of the time, it allows me to be a lot more flexible with what I eat. So essentially I can eat whatever I want those other 20% of the time, but obviously the better results you want, then that number will be decreased. So it's, at that point, it gives you a lot of flexibility based on what you enjoy and what your goals are. And closing out here, we're going to be talking about a lot of things for you guys. Don't get overwhelmed. Really just think like, what's the one thing that if I took away from this, I'm going to try to like implement it into my day-to-day that'll benefit me, right? Don't try to implement 100 things. Just take one thing, implement it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then come back and try to implement something else. And with that, just think like, what is the one thing that you guys can do in your guys' day-to-day life to elevate your mind, body, and life? So this is the Elevate Wellness podcast, or the Elevate Your Life podcast with Seth, Joe, and Zane. And we will see you guys next time.
Yes.
See you.
Appreciate y'all. Make sure you follow us on all of our social medias. That'll be in the description, and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate you guys.
See you.